Good morning, everybody. Well, actually, I think it's afternoon. Thanks for logging on to our webinar again this week. We are excited to share some compliance update and some Q&A for you guys. It is 1:30, so we're going to go ahead and get started here. Again, just wanted to review a couple things. If you haven't joined us in the past, welcome. And on the right-hand side of your screen, there is a little chat box. If you would please post all of your questions over there, and we'll do our very best to get to those towards the end of our presentation. And please feel free to ask us anything. And there's going to be, at the end of the presentation, we'll make sure that you get a copy of the recordings as well as the handout. And if you guys have any questions, again, we'll go through those. So here's a couple of things that we're going to go over this afternoon. We're going to talk about the CARES Act, and a few things that have changed. And then we'll show you some additional resources and go through questions. And we'll try and make it short and sweet for you guys, but I'm going to go ahead and bring on our compliance expert, Angie Sura, here. And we are going to talk a little bit about the CARES Act. Angie?
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. You can go ahead and scroll right past me. Good afternoon, everybody. We are excited to give you another, hopefully not full hour, but we'll see. There's always so much content, and I am happy to spend many hours going through all of this to bring you the best advice and information and recommendations. There is a lot of content in the new CARES Act legislation. And as I had said previously, if you're like me and you want to actually read the text of the law, it is HR 748. Go grab it and have fun. But for those of you that don't want to pour through all of that, I'm happy to disseminate it for you. So let's go ahead and dive in. Go ahead to the next slide, Alex. I know that you are all very excited and interested to learn more. We're going to do a deeper dive into some of these programs contained in the CARES Act to help support our business owners out there in areas that are available to you now to assist in keeping your business open during this crazy climate that we're in right now. So last webinar on Tuesday, we did a pretty high level overview of some of the important pieces that pertain to you all and how the legislation is going to serve you. So now I want to dive a little bit deeper into a handful of these particular pieces. So let's start with the Paycheck Protection Program. This is a loan. Any SBA 7A lenders are able to assist you with that. Throughout the presentation, I'm going to have links, and certainly Alex will be sharing this out, the slide deck out after the presentation, so you can grab those links in case you don't get them all written down while we're going through this. But several of the pages as we go through are going to have some great links for you. So with the Paycheck Protection Program, this is up to $10 million in a loan. The amount needed is determined by 8 weeks of prior average payroll plus an extra 25%. As we've said multiple times, this is for businesses with under 500 employees. Your business was harmed due to coronavirus between February 15th and June 30th. So it's a pretty decent window of time here. It is retroactive back to February 15th, and the goal is to help bring workers back who have been laid off. It's 100% federally guaranteed loan to employers so they can maintain their payroll during this emergency. There is forgiveness for up to 8 weeks of payroll. Now, certainly the forgiveness, as we talked about Tuesday, is based on employee retention, and of course there's a cap on salary level per employee of 100,000. There are no small business administration fees, and you can defer this for whatever isn't forgiven, you can defer up to 6 months. So this is going to be a great piece for you guys. I know that lots of you had to, lay off or reduce hours, reduce wages. There's not much we can do when, our state and local governments are closing down all non-essential businesses. And I know a lot of your businesses, it's not possible to do telework. So I hope you guys jump on this. It is a great piece. Alex? Sorry, I think our feed is just a little bit delayed. So let's keep diving into this Paycheck Protection a little bit more. So you can apply for forgiveness through your lender. So remember, these would be any current SBA 7A lenders, and we're going to have a link here to find out who those lenders are. You can apply for forgiveness through that lender. They're going to ask for some required documentation. They're going to look for documentation that's verifying the number of employees on payroll, the pay rates, including your IRS payroll tax filings, state income, payroll, and unemployment insurance filings. So you want to gather all that documentation before you go to get that loan. They're going to look for documentation that's verifying payments on your covered mortgage obligations, lease obligations, and utilities, and a certification from a representative of your business or organization that's authorized to say these documents are true and the amount, is accurate for what you're going to be asking them to forgive. So it's a great starting point for you guys to, one, take a look at who the SBA 7A lenders are and start putting together this documentation. Alex? These loans, you can start applying as of tomorrow for small businesses and sole proprietorships. You can start applying on April 10th if you are an independent contractor or a self-employed individual. Here are 3 great links to take a look at for a really great guide on the CARES Act. I thought this piece was really well done and very helpful. So there's the link for that. When you get to that site, you can click on SBA and you'll come in with a link to this guide. It's a really cool guide. I think it breaks it down in very easy to read format, and it's very understandable. So I think you'll enjoy that. The Paycheck Protection application is on there, and certainly some other fact sheets about the Paycheck Protection program. So definitely check those links out. And again, we'll be sending you a copy of the slide deck with all of those links. We will most likely post those out on our new Q&A site. I'll put them in as a question called links ? And under that I'll post these links so you can get to that as quickly as possible after our presentation is over. Second piece we're going to talk about is the economic injury disaster loans. These are available in all states up to $2 million. This is principal and interest can be deferred at the administrator's discretion, administrator being your lender. For eligible businesses, both private and nonprofit 501c(d) or E with under 500 employees. It's also for sole proprietors with or without employees, independent contractors, cooperatives, and employee-owned businesses like ESOPs, as well as tribal small businesses. So you can take a look at this at disasterloan.sba.gov. This is another great way to assist our small businesses out there who need some financial assistance while we're in the midst still of this crisis. Go ahead, Alex. Let's talk about a few more pieces of this puzzle. So part of, I guess, kind of separate from the economic injury disaster loan is the emergency economic grant, which really is in conjunction with the injury disaster loan. So once you apply for the industry disaster loan, you can come out and look at applying for some emergency grant funds. So we all know when you try to make a loan for anything, it takes some time, and time is really of the essence for us right now. We've already gone several weeks into this situation and what's going on in our economy and the environment. So we've already kind of struggled through the last few weeks, and time is really of the essence to get some capital to you so that you can get business back and running and get some employees back and things like that. So the rules around the emergency economic grant is the business needs to have been in operation since January 31st or before, obviously. It's available and retroactive, which is very cool. Again, you have to apply for the economic injury loan first and then request the advance through this grant. So the emergency advance is for up to $10,000 for small businesses, private nonprofits harmed by coronavirus. This money is provided within 3 days of applying for the economic injury loan. The advance does not need to be repaid. And some uses for the grant would be to keep employees on payroll, get some quick capital in your pocket until the loan goes through. You can use it to pay for sick leave. We know from the Families First Act that there's some sick leave that we've got to work through that we may not have been accustomed to doing before. Also meet increased production costs due to supply chain disruptions, and pay business obligations such as debts, rent, mortgage, things like that. So again, disasterloan.sba.gov. There's also some information out there on small business debt relief. So this is to really provide some immediate needs, relieving small businesses that have non-disaster SBA loans. So either 7A, 504, or microloans. So if you already have an SBA loan in place for other reasons, that's obviously an obligation that you have. It's another payment that you have to make each month. This small business debt relief is really to help cover those loan payments for up to 6 months, and it's for principal, interest, and fees. So, it's one less obligation that you kind of have to worry about for a little bit if you utilize this particular service. 2 great links as far as the funding programs and the types of loans, and SBA.gov has local assistance, so you can find out who can help you in your area. If you've never done an SBA loan, it may be pretty in-depth, not really sure, but they definitely have right out there where you can go put in your information, zip code and whatnot, and they'll help you find a resource to assist you. The Department of Labor has posted some additional fact sheets for employee rights and employer requirements. They are now available in Spanish. The posters are also available in Spanish. And the original, which we utilized for one of our prior webinars, their Q&A out on DOL.gov, the best way to really try to interpret some of this new legislation, which, as we know, can sometimes be a little bit vague, and we have to dig through prior legislation to try to find out what definitions are for certain things. So using that Q&A, reviewing that Q&A that the DOL has provided, it's important to know that they are updating that regularly. And at this point, if you're on the DOL website and you click on the coronavirus link, under the questions and answers section, there is one regarding the Families First Act, There's one regarding Fair Labor Standards Act and one regarding family and medical leave. And they're all geared to answer questions that relate to what's going on with coronavirus and the new legislation, how that's affecting businesses. So we utilized these Q&As when we were designing one of our prior presentations. And when I went back in there today, there are now up to 59 questions in there, and they're adding more all of the time. So although you can certainly continue to hit us with your questions, utilize our Q&A website, which will show that here in a moment. Don't hesitate to use that, but certainly if you have some time, please check out the Q&A that's out there on the DOL website. There's a ton of great questions, and really a lot of questions that you guys have been asking us all along are now out there. So certainly take some time to take a look at that. Be aware that out there right above the Q&A link are those fact sheets that we talked about. There's a date posted beside them, generally of when they were updated. Again, they are now available in Spanish as well as the posters. Now, I haven't seen any guidance that say, you know, if you have a certain amount of your population speaks Spanish as their native language. I've not seen any of that that says you must do it, but it's going to be a great resource if you do have a population of Spanish-speaking employees that you go ahead and grab the Spanish version. Now, it doesn't say whether they will come out with any other languages, but in typical fashion with government entities, Spanish is usually the first one they pop out there. Now, they probably will get to more languages, but for now, we've got English and Spanish. Please pay attention to your own state websites. I was looking at New York today for a partner of mine and an emergency paid leave act done by New York. So that was kind of interesting to dig in and see what New York was doing for the state. And you will see that many states, especially those that already had a paid leave law in place or paid sick leave in place, things like that, you'll see those particular states will probably enact some emergency types of leave laws or sick leave laws. So please be sure to pay attention to what your state is doing. Alex, do you want to go ahead and flip to the next slide? Perfect. I made this kind of short and sweet today. I know there's a lot of information in here. We went through it relatively quickly. I'm happy to go through that, but I think it's going to be more valuable when you receive the slide deck, so you kind of have that right at your fingertips, especially for all those links with regard to the loans and the grants and whatnot that's available to you guys. Again, for small business, tomorrow you can start applying. So I would recommend go grab that loan paperwork now and begin filling it out. Start putting together all of the documentation pieces that they're going to need. That way, when tomorrow gets here, you'll be ready to rock and roll, hop on there and submit that paperwork and all the documentation. So just remember that if you're going to look at doing the emergency economic grant, that you need to do that economic injury loan first. So just keep that in mind, that one has to come before the other. Certainly if you have an SBA loan from previous, you can get some debt relief on that to at least take some of your obligations away for a few months. I keep an eye on the IRS, the Department of Labor. I keep an eye on those websites every single day, just because I know there's so much more guidance needed. I love to see it when it's in writing. Certainly reach out to us. We're happy to send you, anything from these websites that we've pulled off and that we use to prepare our presentations and to answer your questions. We're happy to share those with you. Don't forget our new Q&A website that we're building out into a really nice knowledge base. I'm going to post the links in this presentation out there. Again, if you do a search for questions, just look for the word links. I'll post it kind of in a question format. navigatehcr.answerbase.com. Don't hesitate to go out there and answer your questions. Take a look at what other folks are asking. It may be something that you are also asking. I had a great call today with a government entity that is having a lot of questions. It's very interesting when you start digging into, okay, if I'm a municipality, what are my obligations? I'm a municipality, but I have over 500 employees. You know, what are my obligations? You know, what am I doing when I've got this whole workforce and one segment of it are considered emergency responders? You know, what kind of documentation do I need to determine who, you know, within this organization is considered exempt or non-exempt because of the role that they play? You know, a lot of information and a lot of digging around, because like I said earlier, there are many times when I have to go back to old laws to find what the definitions are of different words and phrases that are in the current legislation. Now, keep in mind, I am not an attorney. I do not play one on TV. I am just happy to read, disseminate, and find the guidance to break this down into understandable parts for you. Don't hesitate to contact your local government representatives or you know, your attorney friends. At any time that I need to, I will utilize my phone a friend for the variety of resources that I have available. You know, it's really taking a village to get us through this and support each other in what's going on, you know, with the state of our nation right now. So keep the questions coming. And I'm going to pause for a minute. Alex, do we have any questions out there currently that I can answer?
Yeah, we have quite a few questions. I did want to remind everybody you will get an email following this, and I will make sure to put all of those links for reference in there for you, as well as the copy of the recorded seminar and the slides, so you guys can have those as well. Let's see. So first question is, up here. If someone takes advantage of the program, but after 8 weeks still has to close down or lay off, how would that work?
You know, that's a great question. I'm not really sure. That's going to be a question for our SBA 7A lenders. And that's not to say, based on how things go over the next 8 weeks in our nation, that something won't come out and amend this a little bit. You know, it may allow for forgiveness longer than 8 weeks of payroll. It's really hard to say right now. I'm not sure why they chose 8 weeks. You know, it's 2 more months ahead. I think they're hoping that things are getting relatively back to normal. I'm not sure if things are going to get very much back to normal in 8 weeks, but I feel that there will be additional guidance and possibly some extensions on that. It's hard to say, but certainly keep in contact with those lenders. They'll be able to tell you probably quicker than I will.
Okay, this one was from Les. He asked, isn't it 250%, not 25%? It looks like we're talking about the third little bullet point here.
Yeah, you know what, Les, I will double check and let you know.
Let's see. Okay, we have a two-parter here, Angie. First question, if an employee lays off employees and they collect unemployment, can the employer still get PPP if they bring the employees back to work?
Sure. The concept of this is that we want to get employees back to work. We want to get them back to their, you know, normal payroll and things like that. It's a little bit iffy, and this is one of the areas that our legislators were kind of arguing over, you know, which caused the bill to be delayed a couple days to get passed, is that, you know, we certainly don't want to incentivize employees to not come back to work because they're getting just as much on unemployment. But yes, if you're going to call back an employee and get them back onto your payroll, then that will stop their unemployment compensation if you're bringing them back to full capacity. So you would be able to apply for this. And it's really the baseline of why this piece was enacted so that you could get your employees back to work.
And then the second part of that also, does an individual need to file state unemployment and CARES unemployment at the same time, or can the state unemployment be filed first?
It's all based on the state. So when we talked Tuesday about the backing by the Fed for the enhancements to unemployment compensation. So remember, they said they were going to give an extra $600 and they were going to extend the time frame from the normal unemployment length of time. A state has to enact that in order to get the backing by the Fed and get that reimbursement from the Fed. So keep an eye on your state unemployment compensation websites. There is no application to the federal government for this. It's all done for individuals on their state level.
Okay. And how do STD/LTD policies under a group plan integrate with the Fed payments?
That's a good question as well. I am not real sure how that's going to work, aside from the fact that short-term and long-term disability policies are designed for a certain reason, and none of these pieces, without them specifically saying they're paying over and above, are designed to put an employee in a better position than as if they were truly working. Typically, unemployment and a variety of different things were meant to get an employee to, 67% or 2/3 of their income so they can kind of survive while they're not working. Anytime there is multiple benefits at play, I don't believe they're intended to give more than 100% of what the employee used to bring home when they were full capacity at work. Unless, again, as I said, there is a specific call out that, yes, we are allowing more in a situation like this, which again is why the extra $600 for unemployment. It's something that's supposed to bring an employee as close to 100% as possible, because this is a really unprecedented type of emergency, in our nation. But certainly I would take a look at the verbiage in the contracts for those short-term and long-term disabilities. Reach out to the carriers that provide those products. And I'm sure they're talking about how this is going to all shake out because what they're accustomed to doing as a payout now may be different because of what the government is doing.
Okay, and if employees are under quote unquote reduction of hours, how long do they have to be off before they can collect the unemployment?
So again, that's based on the state that they're in, but essentially with the waiting week being waived, they should be able to go out there and do their application for unemployment really on day one. Now, again, watch whether or not your state has enacted some of these additional benefits within unemployment compensation, and certainly watch as to whether or not their reason for being applying or being off work has to do with the various reasons of coronavirus. There may be a different method that they have to apply. I know in Pennsylvania, where I'm at, they don't have online yet for how you can apply for unemployment. I've got several friends who, are reaching out to me, and I'm, putting some things on my note board to be reminded to find out and get back to them on. Some of those folks that are self-employed, a one-man shop or independent contractors, this is the first time they're able to apply for unemployment. And we're still waiting in Pennsylvania for either a paper application or an update to the online system on how to apply. So there should be on your state's unemployment compensation website a specific link about coronavirus, and every website I've looked at, they put that really on the forefront of their homepage so that you can navigate to it quickly.
Let's see. Gail said that she thought that the federal unemployment was on top of the state.
Yeah, if you see that somewhere, Gail, shoot me a link. Let me take a look at it.
And then next one is another two-parter. So if an employer lays off an employee, that will affect PPP. If an employer lays off employees, that will affect the PPP if the employees are rehired. Is the additional $600 for everyone or just those with the COVID-19 symptoms?
Okay, so the additional 600 is with regard to unemployment, not the paycheck protection. So the situation with the additional $600 is really based on why are they out. It doesn't necessarily have to be that they've contracted the illness. It could be because the government shut your business down. You know what I mean? So there's several factors with this as to, how can I get this kind of resource or this kind of funding. But for unemployment, it could be because they were laid off because your business was closed down. Your business is considered non-essential. Your folks cannot telework. So that's what it's kind of designed for.
A couple more here, Angie. If the employer has not laid off their employees, however, several employees do not wish to work and the reasons given do not meet any of the criteria for the paid FFCRA leave, what should the employer do? Insist that the employee take his or her time paid off?
Ooh, that's a good question, because I guess I would want to know what would be the reason that they wish not to work. Is it fear? Is it an underlying condition that makes them at high risk? I think I'd have to really see what the circumstance was, and that circumstance may be different for different employees within the same organization. But again, it has to be one of the qualifying reasons. Their school's closed down. Well, that doesn't work if you don't have children in school, just because your school district is closed down. So we'd have to really dig into, what is the underlying reason they're not coming into work. If it's just fear, and we can't really find a spot in the current definitions, then it would be something that, I think you should be judicious about it. Let them take their paid time off if they want, because they're afraid, or if they want to take unpaid time off. I mean, consult too. What have you done in the past for other situations? Now, granted, there's going to be no situations similar to this, but what does your language say that you've already communicated to employees? And if you're going to make something different happen, if you're going to say, well, I understand you're afraid, and you don't want to come into work, use your, you're welcome to use your PTO, or if you want to take it unpaid, that's fine. But I think you need to, the first person you do that for, you need to document what you're doing and make an amendment to your handbook, because once you do something like that, you're setting a precedent, and you want to make sure that you do the same for the next person that comes in and requests it. So think about, if you do this for one, how's it going to impact you if you have to do it for others? And again, it's going to be based on the reason. We've got to dig into the reason why and see if that fits into anything.
So they said, responded to the question and said one of them is fear and scared, and the other scenario is that they're watching their grandkids.
Okay, so fear, I mean, I don't really have anywhere to put that unless they're afraid because they have an underlying condition. The other situation of taking care of their grandkids, let's go back to the definition of caring for a child or an individual. Remember, some of the verbiage in the FFCRA was amended when this was passed, where it was your child or family member. They changed that to an individual. So if you wouldn't mind, whoever you are asking this, shoot me an email so I have your email address. I'm going to pull some segments out and send that over to you.
Thank you. We have a couple more here, Angie. Let's see. If an employee is out on FMLA and the employer does a mass layoff, the job protection offered by FMLA no longer applies. Is that correct?
Correct. So read that one more time, Alex.
If an employee is out on FMLA and the employer does a mass layoff, the job protection offered by the FMLA no longer applies, correct?
Correct. I'd be very cautious, though, of doing a layoff of those that are already out on FMLA. When you get into things and this person is already out on FMLA for whatever reason, you got to be careful of ADA laws too, Americans with Disabilities Act. So I would be cautious. Now, if you're laying off your entire organization, fine. But if you're only laying off certain segments, what was that employee's position prior? Is that the same class of employees that you're laying off that are still working? I think you got to be very careful with that, and I would recommend you consult with an attorney on that situation, because that person's on FMLA already. I would consult with an attorney before I do a layoff, just to be safe.
Okay, and it looks like we have one more here. If we reduce an employee's work week by a day, can they apply for unemployment if we have not enrolled in a work share program?
I mean, sure. If they're losing 8 hours in a week, they can apply. I'm sure their state website is going to provide guidance on, is there a particular level of lost wage, when it comes, because this is basically like a reduction of hours. Is there a certain level? Does it have to be 50% or 25%? I would look at what the state, your state laws say for unemployment comp, and is there a threshold?
Okay. I think we got them all, Angie.
Awesome. Well, and we finished up early. As we've said before, we will continue these as we have new and updated content. Yes, we've done a few refreshers on a few things. We've dug in deeper on a few things. I don't want to continue to do the same information over and over, so we're going to just continue to do these as long as we have new information or new guidance. We've only done just a little over a half an hour today. Thursdays may only be a half an hour, but we'll always stop and allow for questions. We're excited to keep doing that. At whatever point there's no more information to really disseminate, we will let everybody know that we're going to discontinue the series. Certainly, they're all still available out on YouTube. Every time we do one, we record it, we post it out there. It's open to the public. Welcome to go rewatch it, or if you missed any or you want to just hear it again, feel free. As always, follow us on social media between Navigate and Alexandria and Dr. K and myself. We're all putting out as much information as we possibly can, and we're much quicker on social media with these only being twice a week right now. But we're on LinkedIn, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. So we're trying to get info out in every avenue we can possibly get it out on. Don't forget to hop out there to our new Q&A site, navigatehcr.answerbase.com. Keep your questions coming. And as always, Alexandria and I are available at any time, as well as Dr. K at any time. Don't hesitate to email us. So with that, we thank you guys so much for attending. Alex will get you out all the links and the slide deck as quick as she can after this presentation. Stay safe out there and stay healthy.
Thanks everybody for coming. We'll see you next week.